Let's not waste time there. Next poll question, and let's get Eliot on this one. Should Jalen run less the rest of the regular season than he did versus the Raiders to try to stay healthy for the postseason? Eliot, good morning, buddy.
What up? How you guys doing this
Quite
morning?
a bit, my man. I mean, festivities are in the air. Eliot, I think it's time to now dial Jalen back a bit. And I worry that the offense won't be very good and it is passing with blah, 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 like not going to be as great. But I don't think this is the time to unleash Jalen with 7 or 8 runs a game. Now, you tell me. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that him running last week obviously helped the offense, but that moment where he went down and there was speculation he was hurt and we didn't know if he would, be a full participant in practice, and he ended up being fine. But those few days remind you that this Super Bowl hope that this team has starts and stops with Jalen. Like, that's it. Like, we can all think Tanner McKee is a good prospect and be, interested to see what happened if he would play, but he's never even started a regular season game, let alone a playoff game. So I think that ultimately, yes, I would save it for the playoffs. I would not, go crazy these next few weeks just to try it out. I hear what Jason Kelce was saying. I heard you play that audio. For me, that's more about the offensive line getting reps and doing it more so than Jalen, but it's a fair point. I just don't think risking injury at this point to Jalen is worth it when you're so close to what really is like a wide-open NFC.
Wow. How much longer will we be waiting for Lane Johnson and Jalen Carter? We know that they've been ruled out for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they probably thought Lane had a chance of playing already. Obviously didn't put him on IR. I think part of that is just you don't want to limit the fact if he does recover way sooner than, they thought maybe initially, then he's ruled out for the game. Also worth noting to me, Hard Knocks did a feature on him this week about getting ready and saying, he's healing really well and everything. So you do really wonder if they thought he was going to play against the Raiders. But at this point, maybe the home game against Washington, like Buffalo, I could say, yeah, that makes sense. But the last few weeks, it seems like he was going to play, and then he's not even out there at practice. So, I think, it's week by week at this point. But it does seem like he will probably play for that playoff game.
How much is there enough time for this offense to improve the significant amount it really feels like it needs to be good enough for a postseason push?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the offense is what it is at this point. I think the Eagles' path to the Super Bowl and through the postseason is an elite defense, a running game that has improved, I would say, over the past few weeks. It's not great, is likely not going to be great, but a running game that at least cannot get negative yardage. They only had 3 penalties last week. That was big, keeping them out of third and longs, keeping them in first and second downs that aren't behind the sticks. That's their path. I don't think their path is going to be scoring into high 30s and, out dueling teams like that. You watch that game last night, and I think the Eagles can beat either of those teams, but I think they need to beat them in the way that their defense I think is better than both of those defenses last night.
To that game last night, Eliot, and for those that missed it, Seattle beat the Rams, beat them late, high-scoring game. Eliot, we had a disagreement in the 6 o'clock hour of which outcome would have been better for the Eagles. Now, in the end, the Eagles probably aren't going to get the 1 seed anyway. But what do you think was better for the Eagles, that Seattle won or if the Rams had won?
So for me, I would rather go to the Rams in the championship game and get Seattle earlier in the postseason than what the flip side of that might be, which is I don't really fear going to Seattle, but I think you'd rather play Seattle early in the postseason. So I think the Rams winning would have been better for the Eagles.
Yeah, it cuts both ways because there's all sorts of implications. One of which is I think the Rams are actually just a better team.
That's it.
I agree.
And they could, and as a lesser seed, they could beat a higher seed and then give the Eagles home field advantage in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. That's a compelling point. I just think
I want the better team to be hurt more before the season ends. Like that.
But there is the argument, Eliot, that Seattle is the harder venue to play at on the road.
But that does not over account for the fact that you're playing against Sam Darnold, who tried to
Stafford.
give it back twice in the second half last night.
Yeah.
So
and
I
they
think
weren't
those
really.
are all,
Go ahead.
I think those are all fair points. I think it's a little looking ahead. Like, I think you probably just need to concentrate on what's the better outcome for the Eagles. They potentially get the Seahawks in that first game at home in the playoffs, or they get the Rams in that first game in the playoffs. And I just think ultimately you would rather face Seattle in that first game than the Rams.
All right, so Eliot, part of our conversation today has been about Jalen, and some of it is we don't know if he's going to run a lot or not run a lot, and should he or shouldn't he. But just gut feeling, remaining 3 regular season games and the playoffs. Do you think he will play well down the stretch?
Yeah, I think the term well is probably the perfect word to describe it. I'd be pretty surprised if he was like an elite top quarterback in the NFL for the final 3 games. I just don't think the passing game is going to be designed or really asked to do that, right? Like, I don't think that they are going to do much more of the over-the-middle stuff. I think they're going to play ball control, which is what they should do. So I don't think you'll see him put up big numbers. But, in the playoffs, like, again, outside of Matthew Stafford, I'm not really sure which quarterback in the NFC you would rather enter the postseason with than Jalen. When you consider his postseason experience, the fact that I still think this year he has come up clutch in most moments. I know obviously in that Chargers game it didn't happen, but I think 9 out of 10 times when they're in the red zone against the Chargers, they probably score there. I thought that was a bit of a fluke outcome. So, I don't think he's going to start putting up 400, 300 yards each week. But heading into the postseason, I definitely still think he's playing at a level that's high enough that this team can make a run.
Do you think his job for next year is guaranteed?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Eliot, have a great trip down to Washington, my man. We'll talk to you. Matter of fact, I don't think we will talk to you next week. So let me wish you a Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. And thanks for everything you do for our show, my man. Have a great trip down there. We'll talk up the road.
Yep, right back to you, and go get that win and beat the Hammer.
Oh, well, that's a given. There's no doubt about
Happy
that.
holidays,
Thanks,
Eliot.
Matter of fact, let's give you the contest line right now. We'll take the 5th caller in the contest line. Couple minutes away still from Beat the Hammer at 7:45. But caller number 5 on the contest line, 215-988-1258. 215-988-1258. Caller 5 will compete in Beat the Hammer coming up in a few minutes.